Death comes for us all. It is the great equalizer. The one certainty, for some people, it also showed up wearing a clown nose. Today, we honor the men and women throughout history who managed to die in ways so spectacularly stupid that we are still talking about it centuries later. A quick, sincere note before the jokes. These were real people. We're laughing at the situations, not the suffering. Mostly. Let's go. Sigurd the Mighty was a 9th century Norse earl, a real conqueror in what's now Scotland. According to the sagas, he defeated a rival, cut off the man's head, and strapped it to his saddle to ride home in triumph, the medieval equivalent of a victory lap. The dead man, however, had notably prominent teeth. As Sigurd rode, the head's tooth kept scraping against his leg. The cut became infected, and Sigurd the Mighty, conqueror of the North, was killed by the teeth of a man he had already defeated and decapitated. It's in the sagas, anyway. Vikings did love a good story. There is no better opening lesson for this list. In history, winning and surviving are two completely different events. Milo of Croton was the most famous wrestler in the ancient Greek world. Multiple-time Olympic champion. Absolute unit. According to legend, he trained by carrying a calf every day until it grew into a full-sized bull, basically inventing progressive overload. His reported end. Out in the woods, he found a tree split with wedges and decided to finish ripping it apart with his bare hands, to prove he still had it. The wedges popped out. The tree snapped shut on his hands, and trapped, he was supposedly set upon by wolves. The accuracy of the legend is, let's say, flexible. But the moral arrived intact. Nobody is too strong to be defeated by a piece of wood and his own ego. Aeschylus was one of the founding fathers of Greek tragedy, a literal tragedian. And according to ancient accounts, he died in the single most ironic way a tragedian possibly could. The story goes that an eagle, hunting tortoises, would drop them onto rocks to crack the shells. The eagle, allegedly, mistook Aeschylus's bald head for a nice smooth rock. I am not making this up. Probably. Ancient sources. You know how it is. A man who spent his life writing about cruel, ironic fate, finished by a confused bird's lunch order. Hans Steininger was the burgomaster, basically the mayor, of a town in 16th century Austria, and he was locally famous for one thing, a beard so long he reportedly kept it rolled up in a pouch. One day, a fire reportedly broke out. Everyone panicked, and in the chaos, he didn't have the beard tucked away. He stepped on it, lost his balance, fell, and broke his neck. The beard, the story goes, was preserved. It outlived him. Imagine being so committed to a personal brand that the brand wins. Tycho Brahe was a brilliant, dramatic 16th century astronomer who, fun fact, lost part of his nose in a duel over a math argument and wore a metal prosthetic for the rest of his life. But that's not how he went. The long-standing story is that at a formal banquet, etiquette demanded you not leave the table before your host. Tycho, being a gentleman, refused to get up to relieve himself, and held it for so long that he developed a serious bladder problem and died days later. Now, modern researchers have studied his remains and debated other causes, so the bladder story may be more legend than fact, but it survived for centuries because it's perfect. A man so polite it allegedly killed him. Franz Reichelt was a tailor in early 1900s Paris who became obsessed with inventing a wearable parachute, a coat that would let you survive a fall. A noble goal. Aviation was new and dangerous. He tested early versions with dummies. Some sort of worked. Then he got permission to test from a low platform off the Eiffel Tower. He told the authorities he'd use a dummy. Instead, in front of a crowd and a film camera, he decided to test it himself. He's the cautionary tale at the front of every test your safety equipment safely lecture that has ever existed. This one's a category rather than a person. In the 19th century, theaters were lit by open gas flames. Ballerinas wore enormous, gauzy, extremely flammable tulle skirts. You can see the problem. Stage fires were a genuine, recurring tragedy of the era. Dancers and performers were severely hurt or killed when costumes met flame. It got bad enough that people experimented with flame-resistant fabric treatments, which dancers often hated because they looked dull and stiff. Beauty versus not being on fire. For a horrifying stretch of history, beauty kept winning. January 1919, Boston. A massive storage tank holding over 2 million gallons of molasses ruptured. What came out was a wave of molasses reportedly up to 25 feet high, moving fast enough to flatten buildings. It killed 21 people and injured around 150. People and horses were trapped in it. Cleanup took weeks. Locals claimed the area smelled of molasses for years afterward. It's the rare disaster that sounds like a joke and absolutely was not. The lawsuits that followed even helped push for stricter engineering and construction oversight. People died so that, eventually, tanks would be built correctly. Our number one isn't one person, it's a pattern. Throughout history, a remarkable number of the wealthy and powerful met their ends not through war or assassination, but through the slow violence of having too much of everything. Too much rich food, too much wine, too much sitting still while servants did the moving. Kings fell by gout, by overeating, by lifestyles that no human body was designed to survive. The peasants outside, eating bread and turnips and walking everywhere, were in many ways healthier than the man in the palace. We don't have time for full segments on these, but they earned a mention. A king of Greece in the 1920s reportedly died from an infection after being bitten by a monkey in his own palace garden. A royal household undone by a grumpy pet. A French president in the 1890s died, by widely repeated account, in extremely undignified personal circumstances with a companion who was not his wife. A death so embarrassing the era barely spoke of it directly and the rumor mill never stopped. And going way back, a Burgundian duke's chancellor, a Greek painter who reportedly died laughing at his own painting of an old woman, and an entire genre of people who toasted to good health with cups that were slowly poisoning them with lead. History is full of these. We could do this all day. We probably will in another video. So what do we learn from the ridiculous dead? That history's silliest deaths almost always come from the same handful of human flaws. Too proud to stop, too polite to leave, too stubborn to use the dummy, too rich to move. You'd never go out like that, of course.